Russian state television host Vladimir Solovyov has said the war in Ukraine will not conclude following the planned meeting between Russian leader Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump in Alaska on August the 15th. He also suggested that a new military operation could take place in the South Caucasus. Speaking on his program, Voskresny Vecher, on the state channel Rossiya 1, Solovyov stated that the conflict would continue because, in his words, the interests of Europeans are primarily for the war to persist. He speculated that if Trump were to shift his position and leave the issue to Europe, Russia would once again have to explain to Europeans who they are. Solovyov also referred to developments in the South Caucasus as a very big problem, claiming that NATO bases could soon appear in the Caspian Sea region. He described this as a potentially dangerous situation that could, in his view, lead to another large-scale military operation in the future. According to Russian journalists, the remarks indicate that the Kremlin is not preparing Russian public opinion for an end to the war ahead of the Trump-Putin talks. They also note that Solovyov's comments on the South Caucasus likely refer to the signing of a package of agreements in Washington on August the 8th between the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan, attended by President Trump. Russian state media provided limited coverage of this event. Another round of threats came from the mouth of scandalous State Duma deputy Andrei Gurulev. Gurulev was infuriated by the news that Baku was allocating $2 million in humanitarian aid to Ukraine and was considering lifting the ban on arms supplies to Kiev. The State Duma's fighting hawk responded by recording a video from his car. He tried to blackmail the Azerbaijanis with economic measures as well as war. It's not out of great intelligence to spoil relations with such a large neighbor as Russia. If there are no goods from Azerbaijan on the shelves of Russia, nothing will change for us. But for them, it will change a lot if we also pinch the local guys who are doing business here, said Gurulev. By local guys, the deputy, judging by the context, meant Azerbaijani entrepreneurs doing business in Russia. The threats culminated in a direct hint at military action. And if they don't understand, then it can be put differently. Special military operation is a flexible concept. Flexible along the entire border of the Russian Federation, the Russian deputy said. In fact, he allowed for the possibility of expanding aggression in the Azerbaijani direction.
European Union leaders will speak with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Donald Trump ahead of Trump's planned meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, the European Union said on Tuesday. According to Associated Press, European Union spokesperson Ariana Podesta said during a media briefing in Brussels that there will be tomorrow a call between EU leaders, President Zelensky and President Trump, in view of the bilateral meeting. The EU said it remains committed to supporting Ukraine and maintaining pressure on Russia through sanctions, which it is working to expand. Officials stressed the negotiations are confidential. Trump is scheduled to meet with Putin next Friday in Alaska to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. On Gaza, the EU said progress on aid access remains limited, citing new Israeli restrictions on NGOs and shortened re-registration deadlines, which was not the case in the past. All this is bringing more and more obstacles in delivering the aid, said EU spokesperson Eva Herntsarova.
Today, we are in a situation in which there will be tomorrow a call between EU leaders, President Zelensky and President Trump, in view of the bilateral meeting that President Trump has called for Friday with President Putin. Let me remind you that at the same time, the EU is extremely active on all fronts to support Ukraine and put Ukraine in a position of strength.
And as per usual, will not be able to go into details. All the negotiations are obviously confidential, but the key and core element remains our pressure on Russia works. This is why they want to get rid of our sanctions. So this is why we're continuously working on adding more sanctions to our packages.
Implementing the understanding is her priority at this stage.
It's necessary to say that there is a progress, but it's far from an ideal scenario, and it's still very insufficient. Israel is imposing some administrative issues, restrictions to the NGOs and our partners, which means that the re-registration deadline was shortened to 7 days. Israel also requires a list of people, which was not the case in the past, and all this is bringing more and more obstacles in delivering the aid.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he can see a scenario where the U.S. and Russia normalize trade relations if things go well at his meeting with Putin later this week. "I do, yeah," he responded when asked about the prospect ahead of the Alaska meeting. As for the prospect of progress at that meeting, Trump said, "I think it'll be good, but it might be bad." Trump said a couple of times during the press briefing that he would be traveling to Russia to meet with Vladimir Putin, but their summit is taking place in Alaska. "I'm going to Russia on Friday," he said in one instance. He also made an erroneous reference at another time to the summit being next week instead. In the meantime, Ukraine and its European backers on Monday sought talks with U.S. President Trump in an effort to protect their security interests ahead of his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin later this week.
I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason: to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, But Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years. So if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or won't be there. And I think it'll get solved. I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. It's going to be a big thing. We're going to Russia. That's going to be a big deal. What happens, happens. I'll let you know what happens. You'll be the first to know. I'll be calling the European leaders. I'm going with totally, I mean, we have a lot of talks. They're great people. They're great leaders, actually, and they want to get back. Honestly, as one of them said, I've OD'd on trying to settle Ukraine. They've OD'd, meaning they've overdosed on the settlement of Ukraine. Not a nice expression, but boy, is it accurate. They're tired of it. They want to get back to spending money on their country. Yeah, please be happy.